Animism, the belief that everything, organic and inorganic, possesses a spiritual essence or soul. Polytheism is essentially rooted in animism with some more defined differences. Polytheism is the worship of multiple gods, personifications of elements such as nature, fire, wind, seas, and facets of humanity and civilizations like law, childbirth, and the hearth. Animism is more localized, working with spirits of a local area or region, and animists likely venerated the spirits of the nearby river, hills, mountains, trees, rocks, ancestral spirits, house spirits, etc. These are examples, but not a general practice of what every animist does. Now, animism is a big topic, so let's make a few things clear. Totemism is related to animism, but is a term used for indigenous tribes of North America, so we're going to drop that appropriation like a hot potato. There's also fetishism, which has nothing to do with bedroom shenanigans. Don't let me stop you, though. But is essentially the belief that objects can be sacred and possess supernatural qualities. Fetishism was also coined for various indigenous peoples, so we'll get that out of here as well. Animism never really went away, and it seemed to really stick with humanity over time. For example, have you ever referred to your car by a gender pronoun, like she or he? Give your plants compliments or have a conversation with a pet? Or yell at your IKEA purchase expecting it to get offended? When you honestly think about it, people do this frequently. Boat owners always refer to their boats as female, as an old example. Even in American country music, the songs will refer to trucks, mountains, country roads, and even the American flag with gender pronouns at times personified. It probably seems silly, but we bond with places and things. You may have that lucky t-shirt that you've had for years that is still comfy and fits, but won't even think of getting rid of despite the holes getting bigger and bigger. But that shirt has shared some good memories with you. A more serious example would be an old tree on the hill behind your house. It's the same type of tree as the others around it, but something about it makes it stand out. You played on that tree as a child. You shed tears there when you were sad and needed a safe place. That tree is special to you, and you don't really know why. Everything has a spirit, an intelligence. We can foster relationships with these spirits like we can with other people. To be honest, animism is a huge topic, and there's probably animists watching this screaming at the screen about nuances I'm missing, but it's a short video, so I apologize now. With that said, let's talk about Gaulish stuff. Sabuta, and welcome to Gaulcast. I am still Artokados Terniknos, your Helvetian host for this video. We're talking about animism and Gaulish polytheism. Now, all kidding aside, animism is an immense topic, and even our podcast episode, which I will link in the description, didn't fully cover everything. So a short YouTube video will be very condensed, and I admit now that I will miss things, but if you find this video useful, please like and subscribe, and by all means, leave a comment to fill any blanks. On the topic of animism, it must be said again that in the body of polytheism, animism is the backbone. This couldn't be any more paramount than in the various forms of Celtic polytheism. Real quick, I can't stress this enough. Celtic is more of an umbrella term that covers a multitude of Celtic people. Not all Celts were the same, so I humbly ask that in your practice you try to be a bit more specific and not generalize. This leads to folks thinking things like Carnunos is part of the Tuatha De Danann, which is not at all accurate. Not saying that you can't have Carnunos on your altar with Nuada, Ogma, and Lu. Just be aware that the horned one was a continental Celtic Dewi. Some are thinking that this is me going on an anti-appropriation rant, which I've noticed I do a lot in the podcast because I'm self-aware, but anyway. That actually leads us to the fact that due to animism, the Celts had hundreds of gods and goddesses, and I do mean all Celtic groups. Gaul alone had somewhere between 300 and 500 gods, and this is likely the result of animism. Mountains, forests, rivers, lakes, animals, plants, and even objects had a deity associated. In Latin art, we see a lot of anthropomorphic imagery. It could just be an aesthetic, but it could represent animism in their artwork. Yes, there was a widespread of worship of some deivoi, but when looking at the archaeological finds, there were limits. Lugus is a popular deivoi among modern Gaulish polytheists, but historically it appears that his worship was more in the Pyrenees, with a few inscriptions reaching as far east as Switzerland. This doesn't necessarily mean that he wasn't worshipped in other areas, we just don't have evidence of. Some cultures have a smaller pantheon with every deity in their specific role. In Gallic and other Celtic polytheist groups, the deivoi could facilitate multiple roles. There isn't one and only one god of protection. Each tribe had one or more deivoi to be their protector, and this applies to other roles. In the Alps, there aren't any signs of Tyrannus, but we do have evidence of Peninos, or Poninos, however you want to pronounce that. In the last video, we mentioned deivoi that had very specific locations like Arduina, who is the dewa of the Ardennes forest, or Ardennes forest. I don't know how to say that. I am sorry, friends. In this instance, the forest itself is a goddess. These tribes use animism to discover the deivoi around them. Word of other gods spread, but localized deities were just as important, just as valid. There are no minor gods. Gaul doesn't have a pantheon, but that's not a bad thing. We have hundreds of deivoi and dewas that represent the natural world around us. They don't have limits and they don't care about borders. That tree from the earlier analogy has its own spirit, and it can be a place to connect to Tyrannus. The Carnutian dewa Nematoma is the goddess of groves and sacred spaces known as nematons. Nematoma facilitates the grove to honor the deivoi. The localized spirits of your area can do the same. Honor and respect them as well. Again, animism is a huge topic for a short video, so I hope this was a good starting point to understand Gaulish animism. But feel free to comment on anything I missed. Do the work for me. Please like, subscribe, and listen to the podcast if you have time. You can find Brandagara and myself and the podcast on various social medias like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I personally even started my own TikTok. Stay safe and have a good day. Swawela.